welcome to the Habibis podcast, three game developers drinking good Arab tea. I am your host, Rami Ismail, and with me here today are...
Fawzi Mesmar.
And Osama Dorias. Fawzi, what have you been doing this week?
I just like that we're kicking the ball already. We're like, oh, no, Fuzzy goes first.
You gotta put me on the spot. But luckily, I've come to know that there's a podcast happening today, so I thought about it. So I've been playing some video games.
Wow.
I played a couple, so I continued to play Hitman 3. What a game that is! I spoke at length about my shenanigans in that game last week, so I'm not gonna. Maybe I'll bore you with one more story.
Go
So I'm
for
at this club in Berlin, and I find this drug dealer outfit, and of course I immediately I follow the drug dealer to his corner where he's supposed to sell me stuff, and then I kill him and I take his outfit, and now I'm the drug dealer. And then I found out that I can basically approach almost anyone in the club, and I was basically go like, "Yo, you want to score?" And then I go like, "Yes," and they follow me to the corner, and then I murder them and I steal their outfits. And then eventually, like by I think 20 minutes in, there's like in that corner where all the drug shenanigans are supposed to happen. It's just a heaping pile of bodies and like 25 different disguises. Like I'm gonna be a technician now. I just like wander into my pyramid of dead people and pick the outfit I want and just go and do the thing. I want to
That's
do.
so dark.
That level was really good.
Yeah, man.
I never entered the club in my playthrough.
Huh.
I stayed outside for the entire mission, and there was one point where I was on the roof of the club
Wow.
and took somebody out from up there. But I never actually entered the club. So for me, the party that's happening in the club is a mystery.
Huh. Wow.
Like I heard it from the outside, with the sort of like muffled way you hear a party from the outside, but I never went inside. So everybody talking about that mission is great to me because I'm just like, wow, that party must have that's a good party in there.
Man, that's like I went immediately into the club. Like I didn't know that there was a perimeter outside of the club until like way later into the mission. Cause like I thought I killed everybody. Where are the other people? And then like I was like, oh, there's there's half the level is outside of the club actually.
I just didn't want to help the guy with his allergy pills.
Ah, yeah, of course.
I was like, yeah, no, I ain't helping you with that, buddy. So I had to find another way. I had to find another way into the building.
That makes sense. No, I really wanted to help him. I also played the mission that you spoke about last week with the like murder mystery.
Right.
That's just brilliant. Like the whole
Right.
thing is, I'd play an entire game like that.
Just a good Knives Out game.
Yeah, exactly. Knives Out game. Like every level is like another murder mystery. It's like this Agatha Christie kind of like scenario unfolding, and I'm trying to figure it out. All want to frame it to somebody else.
Yeah.
It's great. I totally see like how the studio became the studio that is going to make the next James Bond.
Well, if you're going to give it to one studio, I mean, yeah, they're definitely the studio that could make the James Bond movie. They're already making the James Bond game. They're already making a James Bond game. It's just the license that you slap onto it. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, totally.
I now use IOI for anything where I see ridiculous architecture that just looks too good to not plan a murder on. Amazon just announced their new HQ somewhere.
I saw that.
It's just like this glass spire with a forest on the outside going up along the building. I was like, wow. This is good level design. I want to play this.
Send the Agent 47 there, please.
Yes.
Deploy him over there.
Your target is a retired CEO at the top of the building.
Oh, no. Things just got real.
All right.
So this other game that I was playing.
It was fun until one of the Habibis got arrested.
It's bound to happen eventually. The other game I was playing is it's called The Medium.
All right.
I think that came out recently as well. Like it launched immediately into Game Pass. It's from a team called Blooper Studios. It's up in Poland. It's just so cool, man. Like the Polish game dev scene. I'm so happy to see like this many amazing games coming out of there.
It's so nice.
It's like really kudos. Like like you could tell like when like a massive studio kind of opens up and hits great success, how it kind of like creates an ecosystem in the country, and then a bunch of studios open up, and then that country becomes like a powerhouse to releasing
Right.
quality video games.
Yeah, I mean that's always been my strategy, right? In these past 10 years, I've traveled around the world trying to meet developers, and every country I go to, I always try to find like who is the, and I hate the word, but who is like the hero team
Yeah.
Yeah.
that can really like start helping this community grow, start bringing in money, start bringing in resources, network connections, and Poland is such a prime example of that. With not just CD Project,
This War of
what a
Mine came out of Poland, I think, as
right
well.
11-bit,
And
Yeah.
that's like one of my favorite video games ever. It's just a fantastic game all around. Anyway, to come back to
Yeah.
the medium,
What kind of game is it?
which is the game I'm playing. Um, it's an it's an it's an adventure horror game. So like think of Silent Hill meets The Longest Journey in some way. And you
Okay.
can tell like the team like big fans of the Silent Hill franchise. So like there's a lot of love letters to the genre coming through this game. There's fixed camera angles in a entirely 3D game, very reminiscent of Silent Hill. They managed to get the original composer from the Silent Hill games, Akira
Oh wow.
Yamaoka, to record the song and some of the soundtrack for this game, which is pretty interesting. And I think the character design is the part that reminds me a lot of The Longest Journey. The reason why I call it adventure game is that there's no combat really. You just travel around spooky areas, discover spooky things, and get spooked for the most part, and solve spooky puzzles along the way. So you play as Marianne, who is you guessed it, a medium, and she has the ability to kind of communicate with the spirit world.
Hmm.
So a lot of the gameplay sometimes, like once you need to communicate with the spirit world for the gameplay reasons, the screen is split in half, and now one side is the real world, on the other side of the spirit world, and both characters are the both versions of you of Marianne. They're mapped to the same controller. So as you move the left stick, both characters move in their like respective parts of the screen, and interact with the different versions of the same
Oh,
world.
that's really clever.
Which is pretty cool.
it's a cool mechanic. Do they manage to use it well?
So like there are a bunch of elements in which so like there are some elements that you do in the real world that affect what's going on in the spirit world and vice versa. Sometimes
Hmm.
you'll find a path in the real world blocked, but it's open in the spirit world, so you do something they call the outer body experience, in which you're just controlling yourself in the spirit world, and you can only do that for an amount of time before you have to snap back to reality, kind of thing. um
Right,
it's a lot of this, like I'll do this here to help the other part of me do this there. um
right.
So
Overall,
I'm
like I
curious
found, yeah, go ahead, Sam.
because you're saying there's no combat. Is there a fail state? Because I can't imagine a horror game without a fail state.
Yeah, I mean, like sometimes some scary stuff chase you, and if you don't run
I
away
see.
in the way that you're supposed to run away, you hit the game over screen, and then you gotta restart, which I find a little bit frustrating, to be honest. Like
Yeah.
Right,
those sections, they're kind of like, yeah, they have to go through the motions. It's kind of
Yeah.
like a set piece that you have to follow through to the end. They're cool for what they are, but they can get a bit frustrating. There
Yeah. But
right,
there there
I could.
are stealth sections, and if you
Yeah.
get spotted, you get game over, and then you gotta start again.
So I feel like I understand why they're doing that, and I haven't played the game, so I'm not commenting on the game directly.
Mhm.
But I feel like every time you have to replay a scene, it just makes it that much less terrifying and less impactful. So it's almost in the game's interest or the designer's interest to make you not have to repeat things, because
Exactly.
right,
that kind of robs you of that momentum, right?
Exactly. If like like the stakes disappear, and it becomes going to like, oh, I need to now fail as many times as I need to figure out this exact pattern, and then repeat this pattern. Then the initial fright or atmosphere that you've built kind of goes
dissipates.
away, and it becomes something in the way of you
Right.
progressing in the game.
Okay, so the
Hmm.
medium. It sounds like you. And I mean, are you done? Is it a long game?
I'm not done. I think I'm halfway through so far. Uh, what I like the setting. I like that it's a Silent Hill homage, and I like that the team are using Polish settings as well as part of where the game takes place as well. So there's a little bit of inside information kind of come from the team that's building the game, putting a little bit of themselves in it. I like that. It's a bit slower paced than I find it needing to be. So I think it's interesting. It's on Game Pass for free. So if you have Game Pass, definitely check it out. What
Okay.
about you, Rami? What have you played?
I had a great week. Like I cannot emphasize how good this week was, and sadly
That's
I
awesome.
can't talk about what was good about this week. I played a little bit of Destiny,
Uh-huh.
to just keep up to date, and I played what's it called, the new car combat game
Destruction
from
All
PlayStation,
Stars.
Destruction All Stars. I played
Mm.
Destruction All Stars.
What is it exactly? Don't know
So
anything about it.
imagine if you played back in the days these sort of like car combat games, but not the ones with guns, right? Not Twisted
Not
Metal
Twisted
per
Metal.
se, more Destruction Derby,
Ah, okay.
right? You're just crashing cars into each other.
Mm-hmm.
And you mix that with an action platformer,
Okay.
you kind of get what the game is. There's a big arena. Everybody controls a character, a sort of hero character that
Mm-hmm.
they can run around the level in and like jump on things and collect shards. But they can also hop in a car, and there's just cars around the level. And then
Oh.
when they hop in a car, they can race around, they can wreck each other, they can hit the people running around, and they score points that way. And you know what? These are hard games to make,
Yeah.
right? Car combat games are hard games to make. Action platformers are hard games to make. To mix them together seems like a really hard game to make. But the thing that really gets to me is the haptics.
Oh yeah.
Right, the
Ah.
new PlayStation 5 controller has this very improved sense of haptics, and it means that you can address the triggers specifically in very interesting ways, and they really use that in that game. If you accelerate, the right trigger might get stuck at a certain point before you can push through and really like give full acceleration. The brake responds differently. My favorite thing, as your car is falling apart, you genuinely feel the engine like chugging along in your controller. Not the way you would feel it with, like old Rumble where your controller just start rumbling. No, it really feels like in your controller is an engine that is like,
That's cool.
a gear is falling off.
Ah. All right, hear me out. How about if you throw a giant ball and two goals into that field? Huh?
Nobody would believe that.
Cards and soccer, nobody's gonna want to play that.
No, nobody wants to play that.
No, you're right.
You know what I think though? Cars and badminton. Now that's where it's at.
One of those like cars that jump up and down, like in hip hop videos.
So I'm still, I downloaded the game. I'm looking forward to trying it because I do the, I'm sure you do the same exercise, or all game developers, of when you hear a pitch for a game, you kind of like half design it in your mind to try to see how you would approach this. And this one, I just came up, I won't say blank, but I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how I would approach a game where you could be both in a car and not in a combat. That just seems like two completely different games. So I'm really curious to see what they did and to get a feel of if it works or not. So yeah.
Right. It's smooth enough, but in terms of games, that was really it for me. Like I didn't have a lot of time. What did you play, Osama? Was
Oh,
there a big game for you?
a lot of continuation on games for me. So I
Are you
played.
still at the thing with Cyberpunk?
Yeah, I did the thing with the stuff.
Cool.
I'm enjoying it more as it's going by. I don't think I like. I don't know. We'll see. There's still time. I don't know if I'm gonna love it as much as Fauzi loved it, but I like it. I made a little bit more progress in Days Gone. I'm just enjoying that game. I don't think I'm ever gonna really finish that game. I'm just gonna keep it on the side and just jump in for a couple of missions here or there. I like the atmosphere. I went really far in Cybershadow. Last week, I think I said I beat two bosses. This time, I beat like seven bosses, and
Do you feel better about the game now, or is it still?
the game is excellent. It feels really good, but and there are a few buts. The first but is, as I mentioned last last week's podcast, it didn't have the charm of Shovel Knight.
Shovel Knight?
But I found out that it's because it's not actually developed by Yacht Games. So it's developed by someone else and published by Yacht Games. And that actually makes
Ah,
a lot more sense now. So as their first outing, I assume it's their first outing. I actually don't know the dev team that worked on it. It's a solid game. I'm enjoying it, but I think I'm done with it because I hit a really hard. That's the other but a really hard difficulty spike where I went from this is difficult. I try 3-4 times and then I pass it to oh, the spikes instantly kill me now. Everything instantly kills me now. I have to be perfect every time I go through. And when before the checkpoints felt fair, now they feel they're like too far apart. So
Right.
I enjoyed it. It was good while it lasted. Diminishing returns at this point, if that makes sense.
Right.
I still recommend it, especially for people who like those hard, like really difficult challenge games. It's solid platforming. I really like the power ups that you get later. Uh, there's one in particular that I wish they built the game around, where it's like the spinning blade is tethered to you and moves around kind of like a yo-yo. And in my mind, I'm like, this should have been the game, like Yo-Yo Night, almost like
Yo-Yo Ninja.
yeah, Yo-Yo Ninja, exactly. Um, I don't know. I think they could have done a lot with that mechanic. I haven't seen it anywhere else, and it was really fun to try to like move in the air to get the saw blade to move in different directions to hit things before I got there. It's a solid game. I enjoyed it. Even
Huh.
last week, I mentioned that it was really good. The disappointment came from the theme that persists, but it's good despite that. I played something else actually. I also played Unto the End, which I think came out either
Oh.
end of last year or beginning of this year.
Hmm.
It came out a couple of months ago. I was a little bit disappointed, if I'm perfectly honest. I really like. I thought as soon as when you start a game and you're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get into this. This is my jam." This game kind of gave me the vibes of Out of This World. Those the old game or
Mm-hmm.
Another World. Like it gave me that vibe, and I'm like, yes, I want to play this. And honestly, it hit those notes. It's like that crossed with Limbo. That's how I would describe the game, because like it teaches you everything through death. Like you're gonna stumble on a thing, die, and then reload on a checkpoint not too far away, so you don't feel like it hurt too much, and then try it again. The difference in this game, the part that I'm like, okay, you know what, I'm done, is I'm a fighting game player. I love combat in games, and I couldn't figure out the combat in this game. I don't like. It's like they're okay. I can read anticipation frames. Like I know when a character is about to do a thing, and I know how to counter it. Like I have very good parry timing. I play Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. Um, the problem is when I have tools at my disposal and I have an enemy that everything you just taught me, the tools don't work against them. So after I mean, I played for a couple of hours. It's apparently not even a short game, but there's literally this one combat sequence that I was like, I'm not trying to beat it, I'm trying to learn it. I'm trying to,
Right.
because a lot of the combat before that, it felt like I was trying, got lucky, and I got past it, and I wasn't actually getting better at the game. So I'm like, no, this is the one where I'm going to just like try to parry everything, before the game gets too hard. And I must have tried it 50 times, and I couldn't do it the proper way. It's punitively difficult, and not in the good way, not in the I'm gonna learn this way. So I maybe it's just me. It could be just my mind doesn't
Of course.
grasp it. Yeah. I wish I could just get past a few of those difficult spikes and see the rest of the game. But so far I don't. Yeah, it doesn't work for me.
I had to play it for some jurying last year, and I arrived at a pretty similar spot where I'm like, yeah, this is gorgeous, and it starts really well, but it doesn't escalate
Yeah,
in any way that I enjoyed.
unfortunately.
Um, I just realized I think Fawzi,
Yes.
did you watch WandaVision?
Yes, I did. I'm up to
Okay,
date.
okay. Shall we talk WandaVision then real quick, because I really want to talk WandaVision.
Let's
All
do
right.
it.
We
Okay.
need to give everybody like a
Fair spoiler
gigantic.
warning.
Yes.
All right. So let's talk up to episode 4. I think by the time this is out, it'll be episode 6.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll just put in the show notes. If anybody wants to skip this section, we'll put in the show notes when we hit the next topic.
Yeah.
That's
That,
right.
that sounds good to me. This sounds good to me.
Let's
Yep.
do it.
Almost sounds professional. Wow.
We're figuring this out.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm blown away. Like I expected something, right? I expected something that would be fun. I didn't expect it to be this interesting.
I agree.
And I
I'm
was
in
watching the
love with
first 2 episodes. I was like, what the hell is Rami up about?
it.
Watching the first 2 episodes, I was like, what's going on?
Right.
It was like
Yeah.
this black and white 50s sitcom. And I'm like, yeah, some of these things are funny, but they're spending 30 minutes on this really a boring plot that is going on.
Wow, I was the other way around. I was hooked from the first 10 seconds. Like,
Really?
yeah, I started seeing that and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna listen to every single word they utter. I because I mean, I don't know if you figured out what was happening, but I did right away. I'm like, okay, this is because I read the comics, so I know what Wanda does.
Oh, right,
Ah,
Like I
okay.
know
right.
House of M. So for me, maybe that was the difference. I was like, I know what's happening. So
Right.
the spoiler part of that, which you get hints at later, is that this like basically the episodes, every episode, it goes from a different genre of TV shows, like from the 60s to the 70s to the 80s, that kind of thing. Um, in the comic books, and how wait, should we spoil the comic because it might give
Mm,
hints to
I might give hints as to what's next, so
Yeah.
let's not do that.
so
Oh,
there weren't
Right.
that many parallels, but it was enough for me to be like, I'm gonna like see all the links to the MCU and like revel in that. So
The way they sort of started unfolding that through the commercials in the middle of the episode,
that was
and
amazing.
through bringing in color in I think the second
yes,
episode.
Yeah.
yes,
Um, I just I thought the sort of hints came very in a very beautiful way. Like
Hmm.
I enjoyed it because I know the storyline like Osama. I know the storyline that is happening. Um, but for example, I'm also watching it with my mom,
Oh,
and my mom knows absolutely nothing of Marvel except for that she watched the MCU. And I'm watching it with my girlfriend, who, besides having watched the entire MCU, also like Google's references and like tries to keep up to date. So I've watched this series now with three different perspectives almost. For each of them, the way the cards fall
yeah,
hmm,
is really like they balance that so well, and I think that they just if there's anything impressive about this show, it's just that it works for every group. If you're not if you're not aware of what's happening, like like you, Fauzi,
yeah,
then the hints become the interesting part. I'm guessing that's
exactly.
where you were going with your story, right? It's like
That's totally where I was going. It's like I'm,
right,
I'm definitely like in the same camp as your mom, because I was like, I don't know what's going on, because like I saw this character in the Marvel movies, and I remember when I saw the movie, I was like, that's it. This character is very interesting, and he seemed to
right,
have a lot of powers. Why isn't there a movie for these people? And then like I haven't thought about that for a while. And then like last night, I was like, oh, I need to watch this because Rami's gonna want to talk about it.
yeah,
And I just sat down and watched the
sure
whole
thing,
thing.
Habibi.
And I
yeah,
was like, the first two things, I was like, what's going on? And then with the as you said, the things coming into color, I was like, oh, okay. And then there's the 10 seconds at the end of the first episodes in which like it was a TV on a TV screen, TV show on a TV screen, and in a colored world, the
Right.
dude in the beehive suit coming out of nowhere. That's when it like really started coming together. And then by the third episode, I think I finally caught up to you and Osama. I was like, oh, I see what's going on.
yeah,
Right.
This
yeah,
is very neat.
Wanda is just such an interesting character. Like
Hmm.
when you write a character with a set of powers like hers, where it's just like vaguely defined hex powers,
yep,
you
Hmm.
kind of end up in this weird situation where it's hard to create a proper enemy
yeah,
unless you give them the same powers or variations of the same powers, right? Because she can literally bend reality, bend objects, mind control. Like you kind of come up with it. She can do it.
yeah. A lot of
So
heroes fall into that category, like from DC, where you have the Flash, where almost everyone the Flash fights is also a speedster because how else are they going to keep up with us,
right.
right?
I like the Flash TV series where it was just like, okay, this nuclear power reactor is exploding. How are we going to fix it? And it's just like, let's run around it real fast. And it's like, okay,
Well, if you
yeah,
have
that
a
seems fair.
hammer,
It's like
that's
the I love how just everything was just like, okay, we have a problem. Let's run around it real fast. And up until the point where I think there was like time travel or something. It's like, yeah, just run faster than time. And I'm like, what? I'm not sure this is how. But I like
yeah.
that with Wanda, the suggestion of where the series is, she's her own enemy.
Yep.
And I
Hmm.
think that's a really interesting sort of direction to take.
It's a very cool like moral dimension and depth to the character, because like when you create a character that is so powerful, it's kind of hard to make it all about the combat.
Right.
or
Yeah.
the fights, or like how they deal with their enemies, and more about how they deal with their own demons.
It's really fun.
Mm.
I just love everything the series is doing, and every time I start a new episode, I think, okay, they're gonna slow it down again, right? Yeah, first episode barely has anything wrong. Second episode, there's like a few hints. Third episode's just like things are weird, and then by the fourth episode, it's sort of like
Unraveled.
unravels in a beautiful
Exactly.
way. Yeah, I'm very excited to where they go with it.
A great cast as well. I love the acting. Everybody's just incredible.
Super
Absolutely.
versatile.
Absolutely.
Also that, yeah, really cool.
Yeah, I don't watch a lot of TV series. I don't spend any time on Netflix or Disney Plus or whatever except for this at this point.
Yeah, I'm funny enough. Like I'm watching this show on Netflix called Flavorful Origins. Uh,
Flavorful Origins.
yes, it's
What's that about?
it's 12 minutes of food, and it's it's mostly about like some really odd dishes in various different regions in China.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
yeah, like I don't know how much like I love food, man. Like I would
Oh.
travel for food. It's the first thing I do whenever I land in any country. I go like, all right, so what are the best restaurants
Uh,
here? And
Of course.
I need to go
I sound
there.
I'm gonna sound like such a terrible person, but the first thing I do when I land in a new country is I go get chicken nuggets at McDonald's.
No,
What?
Well,
Why?
so here's the thing: they taste different in every country, and I want to know which country has my favorite chicken nuggets. At the moment, it's Poland. Poland has my favorite chicken nuggets. I don't
Poland
know
has,
what to tell you.
Poland has the best chicken nuggets.
As far as I mean, I've traveled the world, and
That's
so far, Poland has the best chicken nuggets I've had.
I
Wait,
don't know
it's
if I
not
was
any chicken
Polish.
nuggets. It's chicken McNuggets, right?
Big
It's
nuggets,
chicken
yeah.
McNuggets, sir.
Like,
Yeah,
I don't know if that's
I'm
something
just
to be
calling
proud
nugs.
of, but sure. Okay, what you do,
Listen,
you, Rami.
after that, I go to the restaurants. But the first thing I want to know is which place has the best nuggets. Like, you have to remember, when I started traveling, I had
Yeah.
no money.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
just like, give me anything to eat. And the nuggets were always cheap, and I could always trust them, right? I had them build up my resistance to foreign food. So I go to China, they give me like a century egg, one of those eggs that's like been buried underground and then like what's the word, deoxidized until they're like black and should have rotten, but they haven't because there's no air.
Yeah.
I ate that. Like, I was sick for like a week.
Oh no.
Oh no.
But
You're
after
so
that,
brave.
like, well, I mean, because I do want to try the foods, but
Yeah.
when I started traveling, the first thing was always, what can I eat that's safe? What can I drink that's safe? So it was nuggets and Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Um,
It's so funny because
y-
on the long run, that is not the definition of safety.
well, it's the definition of familiar.
Yes, absolutely.
So over time, I started to realize that they're different everywhere, and I ended up eating nuggets everywhere.
So what's interesting is that I mean I'm from Iraq, but I've been living here for 30 years, and I went back and visited my family, and the food that my mom makes is Iraqi food, right? Like traditional Iraqi food.
Hmm.
So
Mm.
I figured that there would be no surprises. And I remember the first time there was a surprise, a big surprise. It's a dish called pacha, which is weird because we don't have the letter P in Arabic, but I think it was borrowed. But that's like the only time I've heard Arabs say P properly in the right context. But it's a borrowed word for sure from some language somewhere. And what it is, it's a goat's head, a full goat's head.
Oh.
Um, with everything, like the tongue is there, the eyeballs are there, the brain is there, everything is intact, and it's like the delicacy. It's so when I went to visit my parents, my father's family specifically, because they're farmers, they had me because I was a guest. I was from out of town. They had me at the head of the table, and the pacha was in front of me, like as like not as an intimidating godfather type tactic, but because I'm the guest of honor, so I get the best food. To them, this is like the delicacy. And I see them, the people who are next to me, because that's how it works. Everyone eats from whatever's in front of them, right? That's the culture. They're picking at the cheek meat, and it just looked odd to me. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to give this a try. I'm here. It's meat. Meat is meat. So I took a little bit from it, and it just tasted like dark meat from anywhere else on the body. It was actually delicious. It was really, really good. So I was like, okay, let me explore some more. I've had tongue before, so I was like, okay, I'll try this tongue. It was good as well. Sorry if this is getting disgusting for other people, but it was actually, I had the brain, and the brain
Mm,
didn't taste of anything. Anything. It wasn't bad. There was just no flavor. It tasted like water, like steamed water. And where I drew the line was the eyeball. I could not, for the life of me, like give that a try. The rest was good. It just, it's just that kind of thing that wasn't isn't the type of thing that my mother would easily prepare here. And everything else,
right.
yeah, like everything else was like
Mm,
similar flavor. She imports spices, all that stuff. It was like being home. And then there's this goat's head in front of me.
yeah, it's the kind of thing that is hard to prepare in other places, right? My grandma would make a dove
Oh yeah, that's right.
and dove and pigeon and stuff like that, and it's just like, yeah, you can do that there, but if you go into a supermarket here and go like, where are the dead doves? People are gonna go like, yeah, lady, that ain't gonna. We're just saying. Um, and I think the same thing is true for a sheep head or a goat's head or whatever head. If you like, I don't think you can buy that.
No,
I don't think
No.
you can import that either.
no.
It's a sign of hospitality. So
Right.
like like the Jordanian national dish is called mansaf, which is like I don't know if you guys ever had it, but it's like
Yes.
Hmm.
one of my favorite foods ever. It's also so hard to come by because the ingredient itself. So mansaf is like made out of saffron rice on top of a very thin layer of bread, and it's covered with lamb meat that is cooked in a very specific stew. The stew is made out of, we call it jamid. It's basically very dried yogurt, like it dried and salted to the point that it becomes solid, like a white rock. And you can imagine like how it's the origin of it from the desert. Like people just wanted stuff that can be stored by salting and be carried around easily, right? So
Yeah.
like you put these rocks in meat stew and then you mix them together for hours, and then you put that stuff on top of the rice and the bread and you eat it. And that's a dish that's traditionally eaten by hand. So it's like a very like occasional point in which like everybody comes together and it's like everybody's having fun and they're like showing how good they are at eating the rice with their hands and that kind of stuff. And occasionally there will be like when like especially if there's a special occasion or like you have somebody coming in like a foreigner or something, you want to show hospitality, there'll be the sheep's head in the middle of the plate, which which can be alarming if you don't give people a heads up to begin with.
a, a heads up, really.
That
I did
was
not
perfect.
I did not mean it that way, but I'll go with it.
I'm just happy that the Egyptian national dish is kushari, where we just put like carbs on carbs on carbs on carbs. That's it. We just go like, okay, what if we put rice?
Macaroni.
And then on the rice, we put macaroni. And then on the macaroni, we put chickpeas and lentils. And then on the lentils,
Perfect.
tomato sauce with a little bit of sambal or like, something chili esque spicy. And then on top of that, we just put some baked onions. And we
It's
just go
so
like,
good
here's a
though.
meal. Everybody, everybody I bring to Egypt, everybody that, I want to introduce to Egyptian cuisine, I make kushari, I give it to them and I go, do you want a small plate or a big plate? They always go like, "Oh, let's get a big plate." I'm like, "You're not gonna finish the big plate." And they're like, "It's rice." I'm like, "Yeah, it is." And then they eat a third of the plate. And they're like, "I'm full."
You're full for 3 days.
It's right. Like you don't have to eat anymore. You won't. I mean, you won't anything anymore. Your body's just like, I'm processing. Give me a moment.
The thing is about kushari though is that every person I described it to, the way you just did now, they'll be like, "The hell is this? I don't want. That doesn't sound good at all." And then you give it to them, and they eat it. They go like, "This is actually pretty good."
This is very good.
This is very.
But
In Egypt, they have the thing. I don't know if you remember, Rami, but like if you go at a shop and you order like a bowl of kushari, and then you finish it, the dude that owns the shop will be like, "Do you want a kimala?" Which is literally a continuation.
right.
Yeah. And a
Yep.
Kimela is basically just a tiny bit more to fill in the tummy. So it's like a continuation of the space in your stomach, basically.
I it is rare that I make it there because I always get the big bowl. So um but yeah, no, I mean the Egyptian foods are all, I think they're some of the simplest Arabic dishes you come across. Like at least the ones that are
Mm.
super traditional in Egypt. Um you have fool, right?
Full of, oh my God, full.
Fool is also one of the, it's fava beans.
And it's
Not the
usually
same.
like a breakfast dish food, right?
Right, it's a breakfast dish. So it's a mash of beans with usually olive oil, a bunch of veggies, and you eat it with bread. Right, that's it. And It's so mighty. And I remember as a kid just being like, Dad, I don't want to eat this. Like, I'm going to be full all day. And my dad just looks at me, that's the point, boy. Like, eat the food.
Man, the thing is, like, every time I eat that, I can like almost visualize and see how my IQ is dropping. With every single bite, I go like, I cannot speak words anymore. I
It's like-
cannot articulate.
And it's a warm country and you're eating it and you're just like sweating full. And you're like,
Oh my
why are we doing this to ourselves? But it's so good. It's so good as well.
It is
Um,
impossible for you to do anything useful after you have food. Impossible. You're just eating it and you're sleeping for the rest of the day. Like maybe you'll stand up and drink some like very dark tea, and like it's basically it's a call for help. Like maybe this will help me digest. It wouldn't. Nothing's gonna help you.
But the
You're
best
on your
thing
own
is
now.
the Egyptians just go and they go like, and they go build buildings outside in the sun because it does give like infinite energy. They're just like, well, we have food. Let's go. I won't need to eat for the next 6 weeks. So I had koshari yesterday night. I had food in the morning. My body is on pause. We'll get back to it.
The biggest point of food conflict between Egyptians and Jordanians is what is the falafel made out of?
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
in Jordan, falafel is made out of chickpeas, and in
Mhm.
Egypt, it's tamia, and it's made out of food.
Mhm.
Which to me is like, why would you do this to yourself? You already have the food, and then you're eating tamia with the food. So you're not only eating the paste, you're also eating the deep fried version of the paste. It's like basically you're a person with a death wish. That's what's going on.
We just have good taste. I don't know what you're doing with your.
Very arguable. Chickpeas,
Right.
hummus, and hummus is the basis of Jordanian cuisine.
of,
Everything starts from hummus. It's the fountain of life.
Yeah, the problem is we have the Nile. So that's already Dunya, that's the fountain of life. So we just can't. We can't have two mothers of the world. That doesn't work. That's probably
true.
what happened. That must be what happened.
Wait,
Um,
what in Iraq? What does you have a version of falafel?
To be quite honest, I don't really know. My mom wasn't really that fond of falafel, so
What?
we'd have it once in a while. But for us, our staple, like our day to day, is probably bamia, which is like an okra stew. And growing up as a kid, it was one of my favorite meals, and now I cannot stand it. I think I overdosed on okra.
I was the opposite. I looked at it and I was like, nope, do not want it. I do not want it. We had bamia and you had molokhia and like those kind of dishes. And I would look at them and be like, can I have the full, please?
Yeah, because the texture is really off-putting, but when you get used to it, when you're like growing up, that's what we had on a day to day. Every that is like the only dish that didn't have meat. Almost every dish that my parents prepared was like a meat dish with something else, except for bamia. So it's a staple.
Wait,
It's a day to
How do
day.
you guys make the bamia? Because ours has meat in it.
We don't have time. We don't have time to fight over this, Fawzi. Like, I think all of our countries have different bamia, and I'm sure like if people want to turn this into like a fight show instead of a talk show, we should argue about how the food is made, because I think even within the country. Within the countries, there's going to be like I remember the Egyptian family was like, everybody had their own recipe, but they're all Tata's recipes. They're all my grandma's recipes.
Yeah.
But you would go to a different family and they would put food on the table, and you're like, what is this? What is this filth? What is wrong with you? Why don't you make the food properly like my grandma made it? And they're like, this is how my grandma made it. And it's like, your grandma was wrong. And it's like, you don't say that. You never say that, but you think it. Then across country lines, I think it's way worse, right? Like we like if there's tension between the Arab countries, but no tension as big as the food.
Yeah, of course. It's like where did kebabs originate? Everyone knows it's Iraq, but other countries seem to like argue about it anyway. Right? Like,
I'm so glad I'm editing. that part is out.
Not only piss off like most Arab countries, also like people from Turkey, from Iran.
In one fell swoop.
This insult will make it all the way till the borders of China.
I do love that though. Like food is so important in the culture, right? It's such a cornerstone, and then like I think 90% of my fun stories about Egypt or about the Arab world revolve around food, right?
Mm.
Whether it's Ramadan or just sitting, like my teta had 12 kids, right? Like
Wow.
big family, and we
Big
would
family.
all come together in her living room with the kids of her kids, and it would be like 40 people in this tiny living room, and there would just be newspapers all over the
Yep.
floor, right?
Yep.
Folded out so that they would cover the floor, and just like infinite plates of food. I don't know how Tata made them. She was like 60 something years old at that point. She was a small woman, short legs, so she would sort of have to like waggle to the
Yeah.
living room. But in as soon as she was near a kitchen, that was her domain. Like,
Yeah,
you
of
do not
course.
touch, you do not come near. Like, Tata is doing her thing,
Mhm.
and like just the variety of food, like the pigeons or the doves. I if you would if you would put that on a plate for me and say like it's pigeon or dove, I would be like, not sure I'm gonna eat that. But when Tata made it, yeah, no, of course Tata made it. It's gonna be delicious. She made fatir. Did you have fatir?
I know what it is. We have a
Is it
different version
fatayat?
of it.
Is it?
It's sort of like pancakes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Is it
Um,
what is it called? Misheltet in
yeah,
Egyptian, is it?
Michelle.
Yeah.
Also,
Oh.
don't you just love when you go to like an Arab restaurant in the West or anywhere else in the world that they will name everything as if it's like
Yes.
very fancy, and it just means like mixed plate, right? like
Exactly.
like you'll see something semek and they'll write it
Yeah.
as if like this is a big deal, and it's like,
An assortment of fish
yeah,
covered.
this means fish, this means vegetables,
The
this
best
means
the best example of that I've seen is I went to an Ethiopian restaurant one time that had the hunter's plate, and that was the name for the mixed plate. And I'm like, yeah, that's how you do it. Like, I feel like eating a hunter's plate every day.
um no, it's food is food, I don't know, it's such a brilliant topic. I think we could also just fill like 5 hours talking about this, but we'd also yell at each other for three of them. um
we should get
what
like somebody neutral to kind of be able to mediate the fights that are
right, a, neut-
inevitably gonna erupt.
a neutral Egyptian, right?
A neutral Egyptian.
A
Yeah.
neutral Egyptian, okay.
I've never heard of that before.
as long as they agree kebabs come from Iraq, I'm down. Just like that's the criteria.
I'm so glad we just have koshari. That's our food. Nobody contests koshari.
Nobody
No,
can.
Like,
yeah, you can keep that one.
right,
It's
That's meant
delicious.
That's mensa for us. It's
right,
like
yeah.
uncontested.
But then when you talk about like dessert, you go like kunafa.
Yes.
Now it's a fight.
Yes. That's fine.
What? But we make the best. But we make the best one.
No, we make the best one, but it's okay. Yours is pretty good. Second place is not bad, Rami.
This was a fun episode, y'all.
Yes.
I think we should wrap up. We should talk food more often. We should figure
talk
something
food.
out with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm
this
gonna
was
have dinner
this.
now.
Yeah. Oh, I'm hungry.
Oh, hungry.
After this episode, I'm definitely hungry. I need to eat. But yeah, this was another episode, I guess. We have a Discord now. We don't know what we're going to do with it, but we realized that, we were getting some emails, we were getting some responses. We also have a Twitter account at @the_Habibis. And we have a Discord. I don't know what the easiest way is to link everybody to the Discord, but,
Put it
we'll
in the
put a
show
link.
notes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
the
put a
show
link
notes-
in the show notes and on Twitter,
Tweet it
probably.
out, exactly.
Currently, I think if you join the Discord, we can only guarantee that you get flowers and good mornings.
Right, which are good, and we'll kind of see how the community grows. Like, clearly, there's a lot of people that have been responding to this, and thank you so much to everybody for listening.
We appreciate it, and we appreciate
Thank you. Very
you.
humbling. We read all the
Shukran.
tweets. We read all the emails. Thank you.
Osama
think they
might
know
say
that.
some
We're like-
mean things from the Habibis Twitter. Like,
No
if
one's gonna
anything mean
believe
gets
that.
said- if anybody says anything mean, it's Osama. Okay.
No
Just
one's
saying.
gonna believe that, Rami. Nice try.
If you read a dad joke or any like
Okay,
crazy
that-
claim about
That they'll
kebabs,
believe.
then you know who it is.
If it's a wrong food tweet, it's definitely Osama.
I love it. All right, I got a brand now.
Good. Anyway, thanks so much for listening. This was another episode of the Habibis podcast.
Salam.
Salam.
Salam. That was the Habibis podcast for this week. I was Rami Ismail, your host for this episode. You can find me on Twitter at @THA_Rami. My fellow Habibis were Osama Dorias, who you can find on Twitter at Osama Dorias, and Fawzi Mesmar, who you can find on Twitter at Fawzi Mesmar. Send us your questions, stories, and suggestions via info@thehabibis.com. The intro and outro music was provided by Malik Zubaila, and the logo was provided by Ibrahim Hamdi. The Habibis is a weekly podcast about 3 game developers drinking good Arab tea, with new episodes launching every Friday, inshallah. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcasting service or check out thehabibis.com for more information. Thank you for listening, and salam.